you're trapped in a trap. Now, there's a lady who's apparently going to help me, and I hope she does, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in it. Caroline Diamond is one of those, how do I explain it? She claims to be a doctor, but here's the thing, she is not much of one. See, she's got this channel where she likes to talk trash on a bunch of people, and then at the end of the show she says, and mind your business. Well, she don't mind her business. And there's all this about God stuff. About God. Like, come on, are you a doctor or not? That's one of those folks that, especially in the South, you can get away with this too. If you don't want to do your job as a scientist, you just pretend to be Christian. If you don't want to do your job as a Christian, you just pretend you're a scientist. The thing is that it's a manipulation technique. Today she's typing about sending out them cards, them sympathy cards. Right? Their rejection is God's protection. That is such a messed up way of thinking, isn't it? Like, if you pretend to care and they reject you, somehow magically it means God's on your side. No, it don't mean God's on your side. God isn't protecting you just because you say so. And just because you manipulate a situation like that over something trivial to try to give yourself an excuse. Whew. We all know, those of us who have been down in the South, that there are lots of people who will pretend to believe in God in order to manipulate you. Dr. Caroline Diamond is one of those people. She is not a professional, that is for damn sure. Hey, here's the thing. If you do something specifically with the intent of being rejected, so that you can pretend like you have some higher ground, some moral, religious ground, no, God knows you're playing, homie. I don't believe in your God. But if your God does exist, your God is probably not too happy with you about being a manipulator like that. There's a big difference between doing something so that you can feel like you have a moral high ground, or so that you can go bragging that you have some moral high ground that you literally don't. In Caroline Diamond's show, she will bounce back and forth between religion and science. Well, pseudoscience. These therapists aren't actual scientists. This is a pseudoscience. It's like the idea that Adolf Hitler and Heinrich Himmler and all them had that, well, they could decide how intelligent somebody was based on their skull shape. Well, that doesn't work, does it? I remember back when I was in high school, right? I'm in Chapel High School, and most of the kids that I go to school with, their parents have taught them that black people are inferior. The same shit that the Nazis taught. And it's wrong. You know, it's not just wrong for them Christian racists in Nebraska. It's somehow, I'm not seeing where Caroline Diamond and these racist assholes have the same Almighty. How they're praying to the same God. How could they be? Them Nebraskans are praying to their God. And they, of course, don't like blacks and Mexicans. And we got Caroline Diamond. She's very, very, very dark. Right? And apparently she has the same Christian God. And apparently they both use them exactly the same way. It's a manipulation tactic. That is pathetic. There's a lot of people want to keep telling me things that I've already done. They want to tell me to do these things again. I explain that I've already done them. They're like, well, that's all, folks. Twiddling on their thumbs, and of course, twiddling on their tongues as well. I might puke during this video. If I do, I do apologize. When it comes to religion, I've read your book. Alright, chances are pretty good I've probably read your book. I have not read the Book of Mormon. I've read part of it, I just couldn't finish it. There's also the books for Jehovah's Witnesses, and Chris Stegman did give me some of those so that I could read them, but I never took them with me, so they never got read. But Chris was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. His first Christmas present, because his dad wasn't Jehovah's Witness, but his mom and his sisters were. His very first birthday present that he ever got was an AK-47 that was bought by me. Now there's a lady who doesn't want her name mentioned for some reason. And that always becomes a pain in my butt. Because if people are afraid, too afraid to even have their names mentioned, you know, don't screw up that bad and I don't have to mention you. Well, it's finally warm enough, although I probably shouldn't be driving my vehicle because it's not legal. I'm gonna go get me some coffee. There's a difference between being rejected and setting up a rejection. When you set up a rejection, the way the Caroline Diamond wants to say too, you're doing a horrible thing. A horrible thing. It's like those idiots who ignore me, literally ignore me for years, but then when Facebook sends them a notice that it's my birthday, then they want to pretend like they give a shit because Facebook gave them a notification that this is the one day of the year they're supposed to pretend to give a shit. On the bright side, it's not my birthday. It's December. Also, that guy last night, he's one of the ones who's a witness with Molly. He's the one I was telling you about that I really get the feeling he's getting ripped off. He keeps sending all these things to this lady. She apparently, in 1 month, she had to hook her phone up at least 4 times on Nordstrom Rack cards. So we got this homeless guy here who's trying to get his wife here. Apparently she was in Washington State according to him, and now she's elsewhere, and he's trying to get her to the United States. So now I'm completely confused by this because she's supposed to be in Washington State. Now, from what he was saying last night, apparently she's elsewhere. So this guy is, he's got his own mental issues. He does. But at the same time, he's getting severely taken advantage of. And he's out here and he's panhandling and he's accepting your money because, well, he wants to see his wife and he wants to. She ain't showed up yet. Here's the thing, he's bought her airplane tickets, bought her bus tickets, and she just doesn't show up. And he says, well, I'm mad at her, if she ignores me, she doesn't call me, It's like she's 30-something years old is what he's telling me. She doesn't look 30-something years old. She looks about 15. But, of course, we all know people that age well, don't we? Morgan Freeman does not look as old as he is. Samuel L. Jackson does not look as old as he is. Oh, I definitely look older than I am. Most people guess me in my 50s, which is odd because I don't have that many gray hairs. Although, by the time I'm 44, I'll probably be completely gray. We'll see what happens. For me, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's such a turnoff. And I don't mean sexually. I mean, as a friend, that is a horrible, horrible way to act, a horrible way to think. Like when you say, all right, well, if I pretend to help him, if I pretend that I'm gonna, then at least I can alleviate my responsibilities morally or legally or, of course, religiously. I don't care what religion you have. What I care about is how you treat others. Now, there's a big difference between how you treat others and having to fucking defend yourself. Jesus Christ. If you have to defend yourself, you're not the fucking bad guy. If somebody else wants to set it up so they can play victim or pretend like they cared, oh, well, I told him I was gonna, he just didn't wanna. Isn't that always your excuse? Or, there's the telephone thing, right? Lots of people, I trusted them. I didn't record every goddamn thing because I trusted them. And also because in many of those situations, I didn't have the ability to record. But then once I did, oh my God, unholy hell must have fucking broken loose, huh? I must be some sort of a terrible monster because I told the truth, huh? And a lot of people seem to be of that opinion. If they don't look, nothing happened. They say pictures or it didn't happen, so I send them pictures and they don't look. They want to tell me how busy their lives are. Well, here's the thing. Between what the police said and what you told me, one of you two is a fucking liar. And we need to sort that shit out in court. Also, it needs to be sorted out to the public because I'm being abused by the public. I have to be afraid to go to the police about the abuse that I endure from the public because of abuse by police officers. You can't outrun a fucking telephone, bud. I'm just saying. No, I'm saying for a reason. If a police officer does something wrong and you try to turn him in, he's got a lot of options available to him immediately. While you got to jump through 2 years of hoops to hopefully get his bastard ass into court, he's busy harming more people. Look at Waylon Lolatai. Ain't no morality there. That guy gets off on hurting people. That's the problem with teaching people that football is God. He thinks because he played football at CU and for Hawaii that lo and behold, that makes him, what does it make him? What it makes him is a friggin' roid. I'm not talking steroid, although he probably uses those too. I'm talking about a hemorrhoid. Trying to make Boulder into the asshole of the world. Well, he did a great job, but he had a lot of help. That's because Boulder specifically hires people like Waylon Lolatai. Specifically hires people like Officer French and Officer Keith Steinman. Boulder hires those people because they're brutal to the homeless. Their hiring practices are specifically Nazi towards homeless. And I do mean Nazi. That is the right word. Those of you who want to pretend it's wrong for me to compare Boulder Police Department to the Nazis, maybe you look at how many of my friends are ashes today. Hey, your bullshit don't matter. Except for the fact that you pass judgment based on it. And that judgment does fucking matter. You want to say, nobody can judge me, nobody can judge me. Only God can judge me, only God can judge me. No, that is not true. A lot of y'all don't believe in God, but you play on that crap. Because you know you can manipulate others. Junkies do this especially, but it ain't just junkies. Every one of you who think that you can get some benefit, some upper hand, some improvement on your competition with the Joneses, right? And if religion allows you that upper hand, you don't have to believe, you just have to say it and you know it. You know, all you got to do is pretend, and there are lots of stupid people who are going to fall for your BS. Now, this works especially well for female junkies, not so well for male junkies. Y'all say just to stay away from the junkies. You know, most of y'all in houses are on fucking drugs. Where am I supposed to go to get away from the junkies when I'm stuck in public? I'm stuck in public with the homeless junkies. And also, when you guys come out of your houses that are junkies, I'm stuck with you too. Anyway, it's like 6 a.m. or so. I'm going to go over to McDonald's and get myself my first coffee of the day. After that, I might possibly head over to Starbucks. I don't know in specific what exactly is going to go on today. The lady who wants to remain nameless, God, there's a lot of those, aren't they? They want to help, but they're too afraid to have their names out there. Well, they don't end up doing much good. Like right now, the lady who's supposed to remain nameless, she doesn't call me. She has my phone number, and she's expressed concerns about being exposed if she calls me or being recorded if she calls me. Well, I was honest. I'm going to record it. It's going to be recorded. I can't afford to take your word for anything. I can't afford to take anyone's word for anything. I need actual proof. I've got my evidence. I've got actual proof of the things that I say. I just don't have actual proof of what many of these other people say. It's their word versus mine. And there's the problem. It should never be that way. Especially when there is audio and video recordings. The actual evidence needs to be seen. But you can see, well, if you paid any attention, which nobody did. None of my friends did anyway. My predators hung on every word. I hung on every word for a much different reason. I actually cared about people. So when they told me things, I wanted to believe them. Whereas when they told me things, they wanted me to believe them as well. A lot of people told me stuff that was BS that they wanted me to believe. But they believed that just because they said it, that it means I must believe it. No, I'm not required to believe something just because you fucking said it. Show me proof. If people really did say the things that you claim they said to you, prove it. Show me. Show me that they said those things. Show me that they threatened your life. Show me some proof. Show me proof that you went and talked to the police like you said that you would. If I do this and I do that, if I jump through this hoop and that hoop, eventually, if I jump through all of your hoops, you're eventually gonna, no, you're not. It's like Caroline Diamond, send out them sympathy cards. All right, well, go ahead, send out your sympathy cards. You're allowed. But when you're doing it specifically so you've got an excuse to reject people, Jesus. That's pretty screwed up. And then in the name of Jesus, right? This lady is obviously a quack job, and the fact that people give her a fucking license to do this stuff is messed up. And then she wants to start beef with a bunch of people that are famous. See, because she, at the end of her show, wants to say, and mind your business. But literally her entire show is her not minding her business and her talking trash on people. Like, shit, Dr. Diamond, maybe you should hold off on your professional opinion until you know what the fuck is going on. So she got her nose into business that she shouldn't have stuck her nose in. And of course, she does that a lot. It's because she doesn't mind her business. Now, for me, this is these folks' business. That's the thing. If you make it their business, it is their business. Kind of like these folks who their excuse for never coming forward was bullshit in their own fucking family lives. If it wasn't true, you shouldn't have said it. Now, don't get me wrong, I do have to admit to my own hypocrisy. I do. I had to do wrong shit to show that it's wrong, because I kept getting told it's not wrong when other people do it, it's not against the law when other people do it. Really? Watch me. If it's only illegal when I do it, then somebody's not following the fucking law. Kind of like Dr. Diamond ignores her professional training when religion will suit her purposes better. You cannot serve two masters. That is the problem here. You serve the scientific community when it is to your benefit, and when it is not to your benefit, you pretend it doesn't exist. Well, that's just completely fucking nuts. The idea of playing head games and playing head tricks to try to manipulate the Almighty. You know, the Almighty ain't playing for that. Almighty already knows that you're doing wrong, if there is such a thing. The Almighty already knows that you sending that card out specifically because you want to get rejected. You want to be rejected so that you can complain that you was rejected. So that you can pretend that on some moral high ground that you have done the right thing because you did something, well, that you obviously knew was wrong. But you're a doctor, right? You're not. A pediatrician is a doctor. What you are is a pseudoscientist. You're a head shaper. Do what?
What can I get started for you?
I'd like a large cup of coffee with 15 sugars and 15 creamers.
All right.
Perfection.
I can't see who it is.
Do what?
My cameras are steamed, so I can't see who it is.
Ah, that's all right. My windows are steamy too. I didn't do it though. I think your coffee is probably the most productive guest on my channel. Or at least the most common. My guest for today is the McDonald's coffee cup. There's things that people do that's along the same lines as Caroline Diamond. We'll explain that in a minute. I am much prettier than I was yesterday. I woke up with an extra wrinkle and an extra gray hair, so I get to pretend I'm wiser than yesterday. Yes, ma'am. Good to see you. Alright, so those are the two pleasant ladies. The first one is generally as pleasant as the second one, but the second one, she's the one that I get the feeling that if somebody messed with her outside of work, she would not be as pleasant as she is here, which I can actually respect very much. I don't consider it two-faced to be professional. When you're at work, you need to remain professional. That includes Dr. Caroline Diamond, but her show is not professional by any means. Now, when people want to throw stuff in my face that they didn't follow through with, Sean, I was going to do this, and Sean, I was going to do that. Are you sure you were going to do those things? Because you didn't mention them before you were angry and using it as an excuse not to help. But then again, you wasn't helping before that, were you? No, of course you wasn't. Caroline Diamond with the religious thing that she tries selling to her, I should say customers, but I mean really, it's just entertainment for her. For those of us that grew up in the system, you bullshitters stick out like a sore thumb. When I do something, I do it loud and proud. Not sure if you noticed that. If I'm going to do something, why would I want to hide it? Why would I want to hide it? Why would I want to pretend that it didn't happen? Well, obviously, I'm not pretending that these things didn't happen. I'm the one that told you about them. I'm not going to pretend to believe in your God. I'm also not going to pretend to believe in your pseudoscience. It's horseshit. You know, if you got a science that's based on the thoughts, feelings, and opinions of a man who fucked his own mom, well, yeah, that is probably not a science that I'm going to want to follow. I don't follow the Egyptian religion, or the ancient Kemet religion, I should say. Currently, Egypt is a Muslim nation, and they were the Kemet Empire. They worshipped a plethora of gods. A great many of them. And of course, much like the Greeks and the Romans, their deities had sex with each other and got married to each other. It's a whole bunch of incest. Is basically what it, alright, it's not even basically what it is. That's literally what it is. It's a bunch of incest. And then a religion that is founded on incest. Several religions, matter of fact. There's a lot of stuff that we push on our population and say, oh, well, back in the day it was like this. You know, over in Great Britain, World War I, we had a whole bunch of child soldiers over there, 17-year-olds. 17-year-old boys who were married to 14-year-old girls. Literally married to 14-year-old girls. Same thing in Russia. Same thing in Germany. One of those German U-boat guys was talking about a situation where he went into the Kriegsmarine, be a U-boater, and he went in when he was 17, and his wife was 14. He was German, and he was one of the only people in his U-boat that survived. Him and another guy were dropped off right before their last patrol. They were dropped off in Spain, and that's how they got away. Their U-boat was sunk in the Mediterranean not soon after that. I've been learning about U-boats and submarines. I really like the Vallejo class. That's an American submarine. We also get to see there was a lot of religious folks. There's a lot of people who have no religion until the bullets start flying. I have religion, but there's only two people who know what my religion is other than me. Well, two people alive. Natalie Bollinger knew my religion. But the thing is, my beliefs, my understanding of the Jesus are different from yours. For me, Jesus is not a tool of manipulation. The Bible is, though. A lot of people tell me stuff like, oh, well, the Bible was written by God. No, it wasn't. It was inspired by God. I used to have an imaginary friend when I was a kid. And I knew that this imaginary friend did not actually exist. I even named my imaginary friend after a famous person. I liked Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was fucking hilarious. Sure, he's no George Carlin, but as an entertainer goes, with a a TV show that from time to time children would watch, he did pretty all right. But we've got manipulators, don't we? We've also taught people who is and is not allowed to manipulate a system. If you're a junkie with 3 kids, the system wants to help you. But here's the thing, being a junkie allows them to spend a lot of money that, well, it's getting spent the wrong direction. And the reason it's getting spent the wrong direction is because, well, like with that lady yesterday, she didn't want to speak up on my channel. I did let her know before I started recording that that's exactly what I was doing, though. I said, I'm going to start recording right now. If you keep talking, it's on you. I'm definitely going to speak up on my channel. And she didn't want to speak up on my channel, but she knew that I was recording and she kept talking. So she's recorded on my channel for that reason. There's also a lot of things that she said that do make a good point. You guys don't want to be the first one to speak up, do you? See, that's the thing. If one of these fucking people, and here's the thing with the lady who wants to remain nameless, you can't hide your name. You can't hide it. I'm being abused by the public. If just one of my friends actually tried to help, that would have been enough for other people to maybe grow some balls. Kind of like the situation with Jamie there in Hood River. Sure, there's lots of people that were there, but only one person spoke up. That person was me, wasn't it? That's right. So you got your bullshit that you want to sell to the American public. This bullshit that you are an actual real Christian. That's bullshit. I get to hear out of almost every Christian I know about how horrible Muslims are. Meanwhile, until I went to prison, I'd never been harmed by a Muslim. So write that down. Most of my perpetrators in my life were Christians. And many of them tried pretending that they would never do such a thing because they found God. No, they didn't. They found a bunch of suckers that are easy to manipulate. Just say in Jesus' name, they'll believe whatever you tell them. There's a lady who wanted to... Well, you know what? I'm actually going to end story time for this morning. This video is like 38 minutes long. If science only matters when you can use it to manipulate others, it's not science. If you change back and forth between science, God, and the law, well, you're serving 3 masters. Science is my religion. And although there's actually only 2 people who know what my religion is, the thing is that science itself is the important part to me. Between listening to a bunch of religious people who can't agree on the color of shite and believing in science, which is ever-changing, I will believe in the ever-changing. We live in a world that is always changing. Every part of our world changes. Change is a constant. The issue that we have as a society is that we're stagnant because there's lots of people that want things to remain the way that they were in their youth. Meanwhile, in their youth, it was not as glorious as they want to pretend it was. The 80s fucking sucked. Yes, you were still allowed to go outside, but just barely. Yes, in the 80s, we still rode our bikes in public. In the 80s, kids would actually still walk down the streets. Nowadays, you have to hold your kid's hand everywhere you go. Not that that was ever a bad idea before, because we know in the 1980s there's lots of parents who lost their kids just because they were stupid. You take your kid into a crowded area, you're not even holding your kid's hand. Your kid is half the size of everybody there, like that lady who was freaking out because she lost her daughter at a theme park. I was going to say Disney World, but I think it was Six Flags. And this lady was walking with her kid and let go of her kid's hand and was wandering around looking at all the pretty lights and pretty things. And she didn't realize that her daughter was gone for quite a while. So then, of course, she makes this big old stink at the park about how her kid has been abducted. And no, their kid was just sitting down at the security office because, unlike the parent who was a fucking idiot, the kid was smart enough when they lost their parent to stay fucking put. The kid stayed put. Somebody noticed that kid was at a place and went and told security, and security came and got the kid and made a park announcement and was able to get that kid back to his mom. But then it was on the news. Why was it on the news if the kid was returned? And yes, that was during the 80s. Another thing that happened during the 80s you might not remember is the first teacher ever in outer space, right? Well, she never made it to outer space. The space shuttle blew up. Every kid in America got to see that. Very rarely, they would pull out these TVs on these big carts and they'd turn off the lights, put the TV at the front. And we'd watch a program. Usually it was something through the VCR. We were watching some educational video on something. But that teacher going into outer space, that was something real special. There aren't very many kids in the 1980s who were in school, grade school, elementary school, or high school, that did not watch that space shuttle blow up. That is like probably the premier thing out of everything that happened in the 1980s. The Berlin Wall, the Gorbachev's ketchup stain on his forehead. You know, these are all big things in the 80s, but nothing's as big to us kids as that space shuttle blowing up. Ah. Now, we could do the Caroline Diamond thing. We could say, oh, well, you know, God wills it. The Muslims and the Christians during the Great. You notice I put the word great there. We gotta put the word great. Everything fucked up. Adolf Hitler, right? He wanted to make Germany great again. Look at what a great job he did. Ha! Can you tell that's sarcasm? Can you tell that's me being snarky? Or are you one of them dumbasses who's going to pretend that I'm schizophrenic? Because you, although you know what a figure of speech is, and it's in common usage, it's commonplace, you still going to pretend that I'm nuts because you're a fucking nut job. Woohoo! We're all crazy, my dear. Your religion is a waste of time. You've already been exposed as a fake. already been exposed as a manipulator. And Dr. Caroline Diamond is the epitome of those people that I tell you about. You know, the ones who think they deserve special treatment, think that they deserve special rights. And of course, they'll just bounce back and forth between religion and science, depending on which one suits them for manipulation at this current point in time. I try to avoid religion except to tell you about the evils of religion. You want to say that it's okay in God's name? God ordained it. God wills it. God is on the Muslim side and the Christian side? No, he's not. And if you look at who got their ass whooped there, well, I would definitely have to say that God was more on the Muslim side than the Christian side, because the Christians didn't get to keep or maintain a goddamn thing in Israel, did they? No, they did not. When you say God wills it, you're one of those people who believes that might makes right. I'm lucky. Well, you guys had religious people who wanted to be real smooth about manipulating you. I got an older brother who is straight up might makes right. He believes, although he knows 2 plus 2 is 4, he believes if he can beat you up, then God ordained it. So if he says 2 plus 2 is 5 and he can beat you up, obviously God must believe that Eric is right, and therefore he's done right by assaulting you, by beating you up for disagreeing, and so on and so forth. That's right. Unlike my older brother, I choose not to be a cowardly piece of shit. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. Oh yeah, and you can't help somebody if you're busy being a coward.